alone. I met with Joseph. He's a Middle Eastern immigrant who's been in Sweden for years, and he's seen these changes happen.
When there's new coming now, when they're new coming, they don't want to integrate with the European as we made. When we came, we was small group. When I was in school, we was maybe in my class we was 4 or 5 foreigner from immigrate, and the rest was Swedish. So we could not make problems.
Yeah, a group.
Because then everyone will see that we are bad. So we was making as the other make. But now they keep all the foreigner coming in one place.
In one place, exactly
like
what I was going to say.
my school, now you go to the school, you see 5, 6 Swedish and the rest immigrate.
In a country seen as the pinnacle of equality for women, I've always thought of Sweden as this kind of super equal place. It has 2 years paid maternity leave. There's now places in the migrant suburbs where women are frightened to go out at night. I met with one of them. She's 27 years old. We'll call her Lucy here. And she showed me around. She told me what it's like for her just to try and get home from work.
Before it was like I was a bit nervous when it was dark out, but now it's even in daylight I can feel a bit nervous because it's a lot of weird groups of men just hanging around, and we're actually going to pass like a bridge, and under the bridge there's a group of men just standing around drinking alcohol all day, and I have to walk over them and they could just run up. I used to work in a hotel here in Kista. It's actually just outside of here called the Hub Hotel.
Right.
And when I worked there, I ended my shifts at approximately, I think it was 10:30 in the evening, and twice I had to run home because I was followed by 2 groups of guys.
Groups of guys?
Yeah, about 7 or 8 of them.
About 90% of the populations of Rinkeby are immigrants. Sweden's system means they can't work while their asylum applications are processed, and then they get used to not working. And some say if you put Rinkeby on your application for a job, you don't even stand a chance because these places are known as sink pits of crime and drugs. It is a problem no one is talking about, except this one guy, Police Chief Peter Springer, who's decided finally to speak out. You can hear my translator Ulf helping me to understand.
Nej, och kommer det inte att bli kriminellt?
There's a small part.
Förhållandevis små.
Yes, so not all immigrants are criminals, but when you look at the criminality,
Då är
most of them
de är kraftigt överrepresenterade.
They're highly overrepresented.
Yeah,
Och
overrepresented.
de står också för en
And
kriminalitet
they stand for a criminality
som inte vi riktigt är vana med.
that the Swedish police isn't used to investigate.
Ja. Och det i sin tur gör ju att
And that means that the Swedish police can't handle it in the right way.
And the criminality that the Swedish police aren't used to investigating is
throwing hand grenades on the street, shooting in the automatic weapon on the parking lots, and you will murder it in the sideway in the street.
Yeah, just not
in the bright daylight. It's a type of crime that we don't are used to.
I rushed to the scene of a hand grenade planted in a bin outside of a police station, and on the other side of the road there was a mosque. And I was just talking about the fact that there was a mosque and a police station, and a local reporter of one of the second biggest newspapers in Sweden said, he wanted to know why I had to politicise this kind of thing. He said to me, why can't it just be a hand grenade in a bin? And I remember looking at him thinking, which one of us here is mad? It's 21st century Sweden, and you want me to say it's just a hand grenade in a bin. But then on the opposite side of that, a stranger came up to me in a cafe, a lady, and she pleaded with me to keep speaking out.
It is extremely political. We do have political leaders who are very aware of the problem, but there is a political correctness. There is also, I think, a much deeper perspective on this in Sweden, and that is that we live in a perfect society. We have a dream of utopia. And I think that means really that we don't want reality to be as nasty as it is.
She believes the silence is political, politicians wanting Sweden to be seen as perfect. So I went to meet with Mattias Karlsson, the leader of the Swedish Democrats, currently leading in the polls. He believes the way immigration is managed needs to be looked at.
We have to tighten up immigration. We have to strengthen the police, more policemen, more patrolling police. We have to have tougher laws. As you mentioned, if someone who's not a citizen commits serious crimes here, they should be expelled. That's not the case today. And the police should have more resources as well, not just more policemen. They need better equipment. They need to be able to enforce the law in a broader sense than they are today. They are very much restricted. But then we have to start building a spirit of citizenship, of national identity again, to strengthen the community and to have strengthen the foundation of the Western values.
All these very different people seem to share a single message, which was that Sweden cannot begin to solve its problems until it starts talking about them. You know, I'd ask the politicians to step away from the pretty bits, which look like the Sweden you and I would imagine, and spend time with the men and women in the dirty places in between, in the suburbs, the places I went. Places I spent time pretending to be brave, where I was told white women are worthless, where first responders are under attack, and the streets are run by gangs who do not fear the law, but laugh in its face. So I wonder what people have thought about this. You know, I wonder people's views about the information, the things I've seen and reported on, and I've written exactly how I've seen them to be. And admittedly, you know, I went to Sweden with some preconceived notions that this would be about migrants, maybe this was a Muslim problem. And certainly when I was out and about and the only female out, I found myself getting really angry at the women for letting themselves be railroaded inside their kitchens. But as it turned out, you know, when I went to meet the women at a multicultural centre, at a women's meeting, they're actually kept inside by fear. You know, nothing to do with their religion. And then, having come back, having filed my reports, a lot of people saying, I'm making this up. This absolutely isn't the case. Joe, you're in Stockholm. What would you like to say?
Hi, Katie, you all right?
I'm good.
Yeah, good. No, I'm not here to fight with you just because I'm in Stockholm, before we get that off. I just want to clarify your points. First of all, just ask you, are you saying that there is a rape epidemic in Sweden that's directly related to migrants?
I'm not saying there's a rape epidemic directly related to migrants.
Okay, all good. I just wanted to get that off first and foremost, because I did ask when you came over. I did ask if you wanted to come visit where I live.
Where do you live?
I live in one of the so-called no-go zones.
Whereabouts?
Vorberg.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but anyway. Also,
what's your point, Joe?
My place of work is
no. What's your point?
My point is that there is a massive agenda on the far right, in my opinion, that want to highlight Sweden as the poster child of do not accept immigration, and it's going really far now. It's going really far with people like Trump, and I have to say people like yourself, when you're using these, you know, such.
I wonder, can I just ask, Joe, and I'm not suggesting that anybody needs to have read any of my stuff, but did you read any of my quieter stories about women that are frightened to go out, women that don't want to have their picture taken because they're worried that the feminists are going to come and kind of try and silence them, about women in the street asking me to talk out because they're being silenced because people don't want to be honest about the states of some parts of Sweden? Do you not buy into that at all, Joe, those people, even if you don't buy into what I say?
Oh, no, yeah, I definitely buy into it to an extent. Yeah, but I do believe, I don't believe it is true that...
you buy into it, but you don't believe it's true? Which of those two is it, A or B?
I buy into what the women have told you. I do believe it is true that if you are a woman, you can feel a little bit unnerved when you're walking around in some of the suburb areas.
Do you think that's a massive understatement, Joe, when I have pictures of women who won't go out, who have spray with them? They're not allowed to use pepper spray in case it injures the migrant who's attacking them. They're only allowed to spray coloured identifiers just to mark them with a fluorescent streak. Do you think perhaps in Sweden we are now working against the women that you should be standing up for, that you should be on radio, I believe, helping to protect?
Well, first of all, I think that if you use expressions such as the migrant who attacks them, you're already saying that it's migrants who attack them. And second of all, I have met a lot of feminists here in Sweden. Some, I mean, I'm not a feminist myself, but that's a different issue. They are doing a lot for speaking out for the rights of women and trying. I've seen some of them perform studies on...
Oh, studies, Joe, really, we don't need studies. What I need is some... No, I don't need studies. I don't need studies, no, Joe. I need politicians, and I would like these feminazis to be in the areas that I spent time in, understanding, talking to these people, instead of sitting in their smug little offices in the centre of Stockholm where things look very pretty, and things do look like the postcards you imagine it to look like, and actually experience what it's like in a place where an Eritrean lady stops you and tells you to get back in the bus, go away, because this is not the place for you. Joe, thank you very much indeed for your call this morning. I'd love to take your calls. Do you think parts of Sweden sound like parts of the UK you live near? Perhaps you feel like so many people emailed me and said, Katie, you didn't need to go to Sweden and see this stuff. This stuff happens in suburbs where I live. Or perhaps you believe, like Joe does, that Sweden's still perfect and this is just the far right trying to hang their kind of clothes on a hook called Sweden. 0345 6060 973. My name's Katie Hopkins. This is LBC and the time is 10:16.
This is LBC. Every conversation has two sides.
Robert's in Medway. Now, you must be celebrating.
The wall-to-wall propaganda against Russia.
That's not propaganda. There's a fact, Sunday.
We're one.
You can't tell people who are wanting a discussion on change.
Yeah, but why are you
Let me finish.
You're the other.
Why are we jumping off a cliff?
Leading Britain's conversation.
This is LBC.
This spring, purple will be the only colour to be seen in, or blue, and of course black. The only cut we'll be buying is skinny fit and baggy. As for dresses, we'll be wearing them short and, long.
At Experian, we can't predict the future, but our credit matcher service can help you find credit cards and personal loans you're more likely to be accepted for before you apply, without affecting your credit score. Take the guesswork out, get your free Experian credit score, and try Credit Matcher today at Experian.co.uk. Experian Limited is a credit broker, not a lender. See website for details.
Can I help, madam?
I was just having a look at the Nissan Qashqai over there, and someone left this briefcase full of so much money.
£2,150 to be exact. It's a brand new feature.
A new feature?
Yes, if you buy it this March, that's how much we'll put towards your deposit.
For March only, Nissan are contributing £2,150 towards your new Qashqai, up to £2,550 towards a Duke, and £3,150 towards an X-Trail at 3.99% APR representative. And hurry, new Nissans registered by the 31st of March will avoid the increase in government road tax. So head to your local Nissan dealer now. Contribution only available with Nissan Finance. Subject to status, over 18s. Participating dealers only. Excludes Visiograde. T's and C's at nissan.co.uk. Money won't really be in a briefcase.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay.
Amy, come and help me clear some stuff out of Dave's garage. He goes through all these phases. He collected so many albums before we got married.
Vinyl records.
Then he started doing DIY for about a month.
Power tools.
Next he wanted something to play at weekends.
Golf clubs.
And I don't know what got into him when he started wearing these.
Wrestling tights. With millions of buyers ready and waiting, there's no better place for you to sell than eBay. The ultimate clear out the garage shop.
You're the backbone of our business. Strong, reliable, plus you look great. And you're really well built.
Oh, cheers, Steve.
Not you, Terry.
The Renault Traffic with 4 years 0% APR, servicing, roadside assistance, up to 4 years warranty, and 3 What Van Awards. Make it part of your team. Visit a Renault Pro Plus specialist dealer to find out more. Business users and participating dealers only. Minimum deposit of 20%. Renault Finance hire purchase. Register by 31st of March. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. See renault.co.uk/offers.
Greensleeves, a classic, penned by Henry VIII for his beloved wife Anne Boleyn. And after listening to this synth version while hanging on the phone, you too may experience a pain in the neck. Thankfully, if you're not a fan of Tudor Electra hold music, you can now do your tax online instead of on the phone. The new personal tax account from HMRC is quick, easy and secure, and lets you check your tax and update your details online. See yours today at gov.uk/personal tax account.
The incredible true story of the end of an empire and the birth of two nations.
I am to be the last Viceroy of India, and I shall carry out the role with great pride.
Critics are calling it stunning, a film everyone must see.
We came to give India back her freedom, not to tear her apart.
Hugh Bonneville, Gillian Anderson, Viceroy's House, in cinemas now.
Katie Hopkins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is Katie Hopkins here at LBC, and I'm talking about Sweden. I've just come back from there, having been to visit specifically the no-go zones, the tougher areas of Sweden, some of the suburbs that others choose not to go to, Rinkeby in particular, where 90% of the population there are migrants. It's a place where there was looting, fires. It's sort of the images that you will have seen. And I was there not really to see all of that noisy story. I was supposed to be there a few months before, actually, except the BA strikes prevented me going. I was there because people had been asking me to come and see the Sweden they believe no one was talking about, asking me to come and talk to them, to see the things that they think are being hushed up. One gentleman in particular, Peter Springer, you may have heard about him. He's a police officer who's been in the police for 42 years. He finally kind of broke in terms of being silenced. He went onto his Facebook page to say, look, this week, here's what I've handled Monday to Friday. Rape, robbery, aggravated assault, rape, violence against the police, threats to police, drug crime, felony, attempted murder, rape again. And then he listed the suspected perpetrators. Ali Mohammed, again. Countries representing all the crimes this week. Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia. You can imagine it goes on and on. And interestingly, it's not so much what he was saying or the types of people committing crimes or the sorts of crimes he's dealing with that I found amazing or fascinating. It's that now the establishment have gone after him. They tried to get him on inciting racial hatred, and that fell through. They couldn't make that stick. And now they're going with hacking and dereliction of duty or some such, and trying to make that stick. It just seems to me that when anyone speaks out, they are silenced. You know, I've been interviewed by the Major Crime and Homicide Command under caution for inciting racial hatred. It seems that Peter and I may have quite a lot in common. I just wonder what it is about wanting to silence problems that I've seen with my own eyes. I was called certain things I cannot repeat on radio because Ofcom will come and get me for being a white woman. I was called certain names that I really didn't enjoy by young migrant men. I've seen the problem, so I don't know why people are still trying to say it doesn't exist. Sandra, you're in Horsham. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi, Katie. I'm so glad you're covering this. And I'm from Italy. I live in the UK, and I've been following. I've just been watching videos and news about this. It's not just happening in Sweden. It is exactly the same things in many countries in Europe. There are really groups of immigrants. They are given everything, first of all, housing and money, pocket money. But I've noticed, for example, last year when I went on holiday to see my family, and there are, again, these groups of men, no women, and my family didn't let me go anywhere on foot, because they said it might not be safe. So they took me, they gave me a lift everywhere because people are really starting to feel unsafe.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it's, as you said, there are areas where local people or natives cannot go anywhere. Plus, the government, those liberal Democrats or whatever they are actually encouraging the locals, the natives, to change their ways in order to adapt to the immigrants' culture. So I really feel they are destroying the spirit of the native people.
I think so. And Sandra, I don't know how you find it, but the lady I spoke to that we're calling Lucy, 27-year-old, when I talked to her about the crimes that she could think of in her head, she could list off very recently any number of rapes and assaults that had happened near where she lives, gangs of six, for example, gang rape that was posted, they posted it live onto Facebook.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And then another example of in a migrant shelter for unaccompanied minors, where a child was raped by an unaccompanied minor who then went onto Facebook and bragged that he was 45. You know, as she was listing these off, and she said that one night she walked home, she saw a man in the bushes, and she in her head, she said to herself, okay, this is my time, this is my turn to be attacked. And that's her internal narrative as she walks around.
Yes, it is the same. Really, I think it's actually becoming scary. I'm starting to be so concerned about even my family, to be honest, in Italy, and angry to the government, which are covering all this under the pretext of political correctness and being, welcoming to immigrants. We're just welcoming men between 20 and 30 or 40 years old who are frustrated. They don't do anything the whole day. They don't work. And what else are they going to do? They are slowly organizing themselves and they're just criminals in the end.
Well, I think that
work for them.
Yeah, speaking to the police out there, certainly there's a sense from the police that this is not just about the crime that's going on. It's about an assertion by these migrants to overwhelm the police and then overwhelm the system of justice in Sweden, and that's actually the ultimate aim, is to overwhelm the system of justice, and that's why they throw rocks at the fire engines, cut the fire hoses, slash the tyres. It's why they attack the police and the ambulance men and women, is to overwhelm them so they won't go there. So you create these no-go zones, which are then run by the migrant drug gangs, and that's what you see happen in the riots, for example, that people pictured a lot. No one seemed to follow up on those riots a great deal after they got their pictures of cars being burnt, but not one single arrest was made from those riots that were pictured worldwide. Not one arrest, because the police dare not go into those areas and sort of ruffle the feathers, as it were, of those gangs. That's where we're at now. They cannot be policed.
Yeah, no, they're not. And the scary things, again, is the politicians, instead, they are excusing this behavior, and they are, let me see, it's like, there is a very, I'll try and send you this video of an Italian politician saying that the culture which is coming from these countries, it's something that we need to learn from. I'm not sure what we are supposed to learn from this.
Yeah, absolutely, Sandra. It's something I've heard with the feminists in Sweden as well. They were saying that rape from a migrant man is less bad than rape committed by a Swedish man, because the migrant men are coming from countries where it's part of their culture. And that's confusing for me as well. Sandra, thank you very much indeed for your call. I really appreciate it this morning. Tina, you're in Hammersmith. What would you like to say?
Hello, Katie. First of all, I'd just like to congratulate you on a year after your operation.
Okay, thank you, Tina. What I'm trying to do at the moment is just stick with the sort of conversation that we're having, if that's okay, Tina. We'll talk about operations in the next hour. I can say, actually, I'd like to respond to some of these people saying, where is Katie on rape stats? Katie saying she doesn't need the studies. Katie saying she doesn't think the migrants are responsible for a rape epidemic. Listen, I'm very clear about where I stand on the rape stats and Sweden, and it is that I'm sick of people sitting in their lounges discussing rape statistics. I am sick of people using the graph for their advantage or their advantage. People twisting the figures either to suit the agenda of the right or to suit the agenda of the left. Oh, look, rape stats are falling. Trump's talking nonsense. Oh, look, overall rape stats are increasing. Trump must be right. I'm sick of you all. and your rape stats. If you want to see what's happening, perhaps you could get off your sofa, perhaps you could go to Rinkeby and you could talk to some of these women and you could put your stats away in the bin. Perhaps you could do that. Do you know there was a complaint about my first report from Sweden, and it's made me properly angry in an emotional kind of way, because I suggested the young boy raped in a migrant shelter for unaccompanied minors was 14. The man who raped him was 45, and he was also an unaccompanied minor, because the Swedish politicians believe you at face value if you tell them you're a child. It turns out the boy who was raped was actually 12. And the Liberals believe that's a win for them, because they got the date right. He was 12 and I said he was 14. That is the state of liberalism today. That is the state of you who believe in your statistics and your charts. That is the sort of way you think you're winning, because you can tell someone like me I got a stat wrong. I am not interested in your stats. I am interested in the small boy, the 12-year-old, crumpled in the corner of the room because he's been raped. And frankly, I think Liberals are very wide of the mark. My name's Katie Hopkins, this is LBC, it's 10:30 now, news time with Glenn Moore.
Theresa May's under more pressure from a group of MPs to protect the rights of citizens from the European Union already living in the UK. The Exiting the EU committee says they shouldn't have to wait until Brexit negotiations have concluded to have their position clarified. Donald Trump's being urged to provide evidence of his Twitter claims that Barack Obama ordered a wiretap of him before the US presidential election. The former president's spokesperson is dismissing the allegation. An energy company, SSE, has said sorry after smart meters warned some customers they'd be charged up to £33,000 for 1 day's power. The firm says no one will be charged extra because of the errors. LBC weather, chilly with heavy rain moving eastwards across the UK, turning windy in the north and south with a high of 9 degrees.
This is LBC.
A new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with 4 years 0% APR representative, up to 4 years warranty and 4 years servicing and roadside assistance. It's easy to drive, easy on the wallet and even easier on the eye. That leaves you free to do more of what you do best. Less getting the van sorted, more getting the job done. Search Vauxhall Vivaro. Conditional sale, 4 years 0% APR representative, minimum 20% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance, subject to status 18+. T's and C's, mileage limitations and exclusions apply.
Repeat after me. I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
Yes, to apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
And save up to £220.
If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £11,000 and your partner earns less than £43,000, you could receive up to £220. If you were eligible last year and didn't claim, you could get up to £432. Apply now at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
BT and Sky have just raised their prices yet again. If you're one of their broadband customers, you're probably not too happy about it. But did you know from when they tell you you have 30 days to leave your contract penalty-free? And when you switch to TalkTalk, we guarantee no price rises on any of our fixed price plans. Like our best ever savings on our totally unlimited fast broadband, just £20 a month including line rental, guaranteed for your whole 24-month plan. Saving up to £417 versus BT. It's for new and existing customers too. So switch today at talktalk.co.uk. TalkTalk. For everyone. Contract and conditions apply.
This weekend at B&Q, we've got amazing deals on Valspar Colomix paint. Like 2.5 litres of Valspar Premium Interior Wall and Ceiling Emulsion. Was £28, now just £23. Hurry, offer ends Monday. Offer starts Friday the 3rd of March. Available in-store only. Excludes Trade Paint and Pure Brilliant White. Some stores excluded. See DIY.com for details.
I'm Jess. I'm in year 9. I was never that excited about science, but today I saw a Bunsen burner being lit with static. It was brilliant.
The look on her face was brilliant. Instead of the old making hair stand on end with static trick, I lit a Bunsen burner with my finger. You could say I sparked her interest in physics. I teach year 9, I'm Mr. Barty.
Apply now, and you could get a £25,000 tax-free bursary to train as a teacher. Search Get Into Teaching. Subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
Yeah, so you've matched a £1 million raffle number, so congratulations.
Goodness me, I don't believe that.
You will when you receive the cheque.
Oh my God. I'm shaking. I really cannot believe it.
You probably won't until you have that check in your hands.
Lovely.
Kath is just one of the lucky millionaires made in the Lotto raffle. In every Lotto draw, £1 million must be won. Play makes it possible. Games, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over. Katie Hopkins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is Katie Hopkins here at LBC. I'm talking about Sweden, my experiences there in terms of no-go zones, the ghetto areas of Sweden, if you will, where women are now frightened to come out at night. And that's Christian women, Muslim women, young women and old. It's a universal thing. They're sort of trapped in their homes at night, which really surprised me. And some of them unwilling to have their photos taken because they don't want the feminazis to come round calling them racist, trying to silence them. And it very much surprises me that in a country that we look up to as a sort of aspiration of equality, that in fact it's those very feminists who are silencing the women that they should be standing side by side with. That's just my impression. I welcome your views. I'm also thinking about this from the UK. Some people saying to me, Katie, you didn't even need to go to Sweden. Parts of the UK are very much like that. On the front of the Sunday Times today, a tenth of all Britain's Islamic terrorists come from just 5 council wards in Birmingham, according to the most comprehensive study of terror convictions in the UK. Seems to be something about this concentration of recently arrived migrants. In particular, Sweden's taken 200,000 over the last 2 to 3 years. 90+% of Rinkaby's population are migrants. They're all concentrated in one area. James, what would you like to say, sir?
Hello, Katie.
Hi.
You're absolutely correct, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you an example in a minute. There's been a lot of, in my view anyway, there's an awful lot of cover-up with the government and also the authorities of what's going on in Sweden, and there's an awful lot of evidence of that out there. It's interesting. It's a bit like what happened in Cologne. They wouldn't admit all the sexual assaults and attacks until months and months later. And it would appear that Sweden are sort of catching up but still don't want to admit it. Interestingly enough, after Mr. Trump made his announcement, in fact, this was only a few days ago. I'm surprised you've not seen it if you haven't. A Chicago journalist went to Rinkaby.
Oh, that's Tim. Yeah, I was there. I was still stood there when he was escorted out. I was in the same place as he was.
And, he was escorted out by the police, who said it's in your own interest you get out of here. But then the police denied it, that he was not even escorted out. I honestly believe that for whatever reason, they're trying to cover it up. And unfortunately, they're not doing their own citizens justice. Because to cover something up is to be in denial. And being in denial is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the women. It's not going to help the young men and women that have been raped. And for people to say that there is no correlation between the vast mass immigration into Sweden and a sudden mass rise in rape cases, for anybody to say that there's no linkage at all or no common denominator is absolutely ridiculous.
I think it's a curious thing, this silencing, James, and you do see it everywhere. You see it with a police officer who spoke out, silenced by his bosses, by the establishment. You see it with the young lady, silenced by the feminists, and you see it also in other places in Sweden where it's definitely pushed down under the radar. You know, even the journalist from the second largest tabloid paper in Sweden who came up to me and said, why can't it just be a hand grenade in a bin? And, I find myself thinking, am I mad? Is it me that's mad? Or is it this man that's mad?
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Kate. This liberalism is almost verging on the border of total acceptance, and it's another case of the liberalism, a bit like the example you used over the age statistic. What difference is it if it's 14, 13, 12 or 11? It's the same thing, it's a young boy. But by doing that, the liberals try and mask it out and forget about the crime, but let's just say the statistic wrong. This is what the problem is, and this is what the problem is in the UK as well. Is these liberals are trying to defeat the true picture
I know, and then this is why it makes me mad when they bang on. They're all sitting in their, mum's spare rooms. They can't afford their own homes, but they bang on about these stats that they've read in some left-wing paper or other, that ignoring the fact that the general trend is an increase. But they don't see behind that. They don't see Lucy, who had her apartment broken into in the daylight with a crowbar. Saw the crowbar marks on the window. They stole her car keys, took her car and burnt her car. And then when she rang the police to report that as a crime, they said, look, we can't be attending because we're overloaded. And so people know that they can just break into apartments in the middle of the day because simply nothing will be done about it. That is the effect of an increase in any kind of crime in an area.
Absolutely, Katie, and I pity Sweden, I really do, because it used to be one of the most fantastic. I mean, it was one of the places I always wanted to visit before I died. I can honestly say I've got no intention of visiting it.
And I can say, James, absolutely and categorically, people are correct when they say, I live in blah, 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 part of Sweden, and you don't see any of this. I have no notion what Katie is talking about. I live in this, and it's beautiful, and it's peaceful, and that is true. There are parts you can live in, and it is beautiful, and the children are beautiful, and the people are beautiful. But that's because they've managed to scoot all the people that are newly arrived, the migrants, the trouble areas, are all in together. And I spoke to the head of the Swedish Democrats, the party leading in the polls, a kind of more sophisticated UKIP, if you will. And I said, is it the case that we're going to end up with walls being built around these sorts of places like Rinkeby to keep these people in? And he said, no, it's more likely that the others will all start to live in gated communities to protect themselves. And sure enough, a couple of days later at the fire station, an enormous reinforced wall being built.
Well, you're spot on again, Kate. It's like trying to compare the Cotswolds to a ghetto in Bradford.
Absolutely.
Of course, the parallels apart, but the point is it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've got the government that are moving most of the, even the people who are coming into Dover, even the illegal ones, are swamping Manchester and North Manchester schools because they don't want them in Islington, they don't want them in Twickenham. They're just pushing them up north.
James, can you just stay with me a second? I just want to bring in a lady who thinks I'm talking nonsense. Can you hold with me on the line, James?
Yes.
Great, thanks, mate. Tina, you're in Hammersmith. I think do you think I'm talking rubbish, is my sense?
Absolutely. I didn't say rubbish.
Oh, sorry. Yes, no, I don't want to paraphrase you.
I wouldn't say you talk rubbish, Katie, but your views are your views. And what would you like me to address? The situation in Sweden or the something that you're...
Well, actually, interestingly, James was just talking about areas of the UK, and I'm particularly interested in that contrast. Some people saying to me, Katie, you didn't need to go to Sweden. This is the UK. There's plenty of areas in the UK people can't walk, sink pits of kind of areas where the population doesn't reflect the population of the UK. What do you think to that, Tina?
Okay, you're saying sink pits, and you said people. But in your original statement, you're saying white people. So what issue do you want me to address? White women. Do you want me to address that?
Great, go for your life.
In general. Okay, white women. Well, there's certain areas you can't travel in the UK because of your particular views, Katie. But there are no sink pits of areas that you cannot travel in the UK. That is just utter rubbish. And bring me the statistics. I know you're not very good on statistics. You made a mistake and you apologise for that.
No, I didn't apologise for that. I didn't apologise for any mistake. I said that it's typical of the Liberals.
I'm very angry at you classing us Liberals.
Yeah, I don't think Liberals are that liberal either, actually. I'm pretty angry with myself.
Really? Okay, well, there are no sink pits in the UK that you...
There's no... Yeah, okay, great. Tina, can you hold there? So, James, Tina's saying there's no sink pits in the UK where white women would be frightened to walk, and I'd add at night, because I'm specifically talking about night in Rinkeby. James, do you think there's any sink pit areas in the UK?
Well, really, with respect to Tina, I think she needs to pay a visit, get out of the bubble and get up to somewhere like Manchester. I live about 10 minutes from Piccadilly in Manchester. Now, Piccadilly, over the last 15 years, where the trains, the trams all terminate, where everybody travels to London from, it's like the King's Cross of Manchester. Basically, after 6 o'clock, particularly after 4:30 in the winter, when it's dark, it is a no-go zone. It is completely surrounded by thousands of non-speaking migrants, all hanging out in shops. This is an area, I would point out to Tina, that used to be a place for people to go and have picnics in. There used to be something called Piccadilly Gardens. It's now the Piccadilly Swamp. And it's been swamped by migrants, illegal and legal.
Okay.
They are all single men.
Okay, James, hold it right there. Tina, what do you say to James, him pointing out to you a specific area that is swamped with migrants who don't speak English that people would not go through? What do you think about what James has just said?
Katie, I've had a long think while he was speaking.
Great.
I was in Manchester, Piccadilly 2 weeks ago, my love. I stayed in the area that he's talking about, and the only people I was accosted by were drunks on the street. And these drunks weren't migrants, these were indigenous people, and they were the only people that were accosting me on the streets of Manchester.
James?
Hey, Tina.
Hello?
Did you go there in the evening, Tina?
I stayed for 2 weeks, my love. I was up there doing a report on the homeless situation we have.
And did you walk opposite the tram stop in Piccadilly Gardens? Did you dare cut through the park that's in the middle? I doubt very much you did.
Okay, okay, hold on a second, Tina. Someone here and James, this guy is talking rubbish. I was back in Manchester recently and happily walked around Piccadilly at night. I think that's from Laura. Do you think, James, that they are talking? You would stand firm and say that Piccadilly is a no-go area for people at night?
Katie, I have lived here for over 25 years, unfortunately. I visit Piccadilly every single day. I have no vested interest in lying.
Of course not.
I have seen Piccadilly in particular, and it's not just Piccadilly. I could name many others for the likes of Liberal Tina. There are many others out there, right? And I have seen it transformed over the last 25 years to what used to be a picnic area. She might well have gone out in the day. She might well have done it. I don't see that.
Tina, you were doing a report on homeless people?
Yes, I was.
Did you stay? Where did you stay, Tina? In a hotel?
No, I didn't stay in a hotel.
Where'd you stay?
I stayed in one of the hostels, one of the cheap £15 a night hostels.
Did you? Did you stay on the streets with the homeless people?
I didn't stay on the streets.
So you're doing a report on homeless people, but you didn't stay on the streets? Because funny, I went to Sweden to do a report on Swedish people, so I stayed in Sweden. But anyway, thanks very much, Tina, for your call this morning. I appreciate it. James, good on you for trying to speak out. It seems that their silencing goes on quite a lot, doesn't it? 03456060973. Do give me a call if you think there are parts of Britain that it is not safe to go out and about, or whether it's just me speaking right-wing nonsense. This is LBC. The time is 10:46. My name's Katie Hopkins.
Last time on the Nigel Farage Show.
Gina Miller, remember her? The Ramona-in-chief. She hasn't given up. She's considering yet another court case. Gina Miller, the last opinion poll says 68% of Britons now accept the result of the referendum and want the government to get on with it, if only they were left to do so.
Love him or hate him, now you can call him. The Nigel Farage Show. Back tomorrow from 7 p.m. on LBC.
A new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with 4 years 0% APR representative, up to 4 years warranty and 4 years servicing and roadside assistance. It's easy to drive, easy on the wallet and even easier on the eye. That leaves you free to do more of what you do best. Less getting the van sorted, more getting the job done. Search Vauxhall Vivaro. Conditional sale, 4 years 0% APR representative, minimum 20% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance, subject to status, 18+. T's and C's, mileage limitations and exclusions apply.
John, I think we need to make our marriage work harder.
What? It's the moustache, isn't it?
No, it's our marriage allowance. There's up to £220 waiting for us to claim. Although I think you could lose the moustache.
Yes, dear. If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £11,000 and your partner earns less than £43,000, you could receive up to £220. If you were eligible last year and didn't claim, you could get up to £432. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply online at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay.
Amy, come and help me clear some stuff out of Dave's garage. He goes through all these phases. He collected so many albums before we got married.
Vinyl records.
Then he started doing DIY for about a month.
Power tools.
Next he wanted something to play at weekends.
Golf clubs.
And I don't know what got into him when he started wearing these.
Wrestling tights. With millions of buyers ready and waiting, there's no better place for you to sell than eBay. The ultimate clear out the garage shop.
Are you sat behind the steering wheel of a car? Good. don't tell me. You're a driver who likes to save. Well, you could make even more savings at Confused.com. Savings on things like car insurance, tires and petrol. In fact, they have more ways to save on your car than anyone else. It's why they're number one for car savings. Now, are you saving that half-finished bag of crisps in the back, or are they up for grabs? Smoky bacon. Drivers win at Confused.com.
I'm Jess. I'm in year 9. I was never that excited about science, but today I saw a Bunsen burner being lit with static. It was brilliant.
The look on her face was brilliant. Instead of the old making hair stand on end with static trick, I lit a Bunsen burner with my finger. You could say I sparked her interest in physics. I teach year 9, I'm Mr. Barty.
Apply now, and you could get a £25,000 tax-free bursary to train as a teacher. Search Get Into Teaching. Subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Katie Hopkins.
This is Katie Hopkins here at LBC. In the next hour, we're going to be talking about your experiences, maybe a year after or life after surgery, what that's like, maybe even building up to surgery, and whether you pulled out because maybe you bottled it, which I think would be absolutely fair enough, or maybe after surgery, life wasn't quite as perfect as you'd hoped it would be. Even things like dealing with baldness, as I did for a while. There's a big kind of female group out there who will know what it's like to lose your hair and how that actually impacts you sometimes more than the surgery itself, strangely enough. That's coming up in the next hour after 11 o'clock. 0345 6060 973 if you'd like to share your stories about surgery and life after surgery. Right now I was talking about my report from Sweden and how I'd found areas of Sweden where women are frightened to go out at night. Thinking back to the UK, whether that happened here. We had a caller saying, yes, absolutely, in Manchester, people can't go out at night. Women calling in to say, oh, it's absolutely fine. I'm trying to work out where's the truth here. What's the truth and what's the lie? Gary, you're in Blackheath. What would you like to say?
Yeah, good morning. Thank God for Katie Hopkins. That's all I can say. Katie, a few years ago, my wife was pregnant. They're saying these sorts of things don't go on in the UK. My wife was pregnant at the time. I was born and bred in Tower Hamlets, East London. We was down on our luck a bit a few years ago, and we tried to get a squat on one of the estates near where I was born and bred, and my family were born and bred in East London. Now, we had bottles thrown at us, and we was told to pee off, you white so-and-so, on an estate in East London where I was born and bred. Now, if people think that these sorts of things are not still going on now, then they're blind, because we've seen it recently that all the people on the left, they've got such a nasty streak, and all they want to do is have a go at the people highlighting the problems, not how to deal with the problems themselves. A little while ago, Katie, I phoned up about some boys in Speaker's Corner trying to radicalise people, a young boy. But nobody seems to care, apart from people like yourself, thank God, that these sorts of things are going on, Katie.
I know.
It scares me for my grandchildren's future and for my wife, if she was to... I mean, luckily, we live in a different area now, but it's going on all the time. When are these people going to wake up, Katie?
I've no idea, Gary. And do you know what? The mum in me, at a certain point in Rinkeby, and I had a translator and a photographer with me, is a huge guy. But at one point, I got so angry with these guys just sort of... I don't know, hanging around, doing nothing, intimidating people, no women out, no women allowed out because they're frightened. I got so angry, I went up to this little gang of boys as I saw them, and I was like, what are you doing? Like some weird mother. What are you doing? What are you doing with your lives? What's the point of you? And that's the point I got called some things I can't say, but it had to do with being white, and W sounds like bore, and, telling me that I needed to F somewhere and, go and something on my mum. And that's from, kids straight into my face. That's what we're up against. And and that's why I'm struggling a bit, Gary, with people saying, no, Katie's lying, this doesn't happen. I don't get that.
The thing is that years ago we had a problem. I remember ringing up LBC about 15, 20 years ago, and I said that if we wasn't careful, that the gang problems from America was going to be very similar in this country. Well, that happened, Katie, because nobody took up the thing to fight these things and to do anything about it when they see it happening. Instead, they want to go in their little lefty, cocoons, and it's not really happening and we're all lying. No, we're not lying. It is happening, and it is happening in this country.
And I sometimes wonder, Gary, if, the fact that people are so determined to say it's a lie is the very reason that things like Rochdale happen, because we're so desperate to be PC here, just as Sweden are desperate to be PC, that then massive things happen and go unreported because everyone's too frightened to talk about that. And frankly, Gary, I've had a bit of enough of that. Thank you, Gary, so much for your call this morning. Charlie, you're in Bermondsey. What would you like to say?
Okay, how you doing?
All right, thank you.
Well, first of all, this show is going to be all over the papers tomorrow in Sweden. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, I've already had quite a lot of attacks from Sweden, from Swedish feminists in particular, offering to come to my house to teach me a lesson.
Yeah, well, I've lived there for 35 years, and you was in Rinkeby. Now, when I first moved there, I had a flat. I got a flat in Townsend, which is right next to it.
Yes, it is.
Right, now, I knew sort of straight away that I wanted to get out there because coming from Bermondsey, I didn't want to sort of move to a similar place, but at the time, around there in Rinkeby, it was predominantly Chilean, Finnish, and it had its problems, but nothing, absolutely nothing like it is now. It's just incredible. Now, it's not just those areas. I mean, this sort of thing has been going on for a long time in Sweden. When I first moved there, I thought it's still a nice place. It all depends where you live, But it's changed. God, it's changed. It's really changed. Now, it's not just those areas. It's the underground system, Central Station, forget it, late at night. Now, I've got 3 daughters and a son. Now, my 3 daughters, they're in their mid-20s now. And, well, there's nothing really to do around those places anyway.
No.
And they are, all intents and purposes, they are Swedish. My wife's Swedish, but they just wouldn't go around there. Now, when I moved there and I met other group of expats, our first thing was, even though everyone speaks English, we wanted to learn the language, want to integrate, want to be able to read the paper, listen to the radio, you want to do those things. There's absolutely no interest.
No, I agree with you, Charlie. And interestingly as well, I went to a women's group and there was 14 women there, lovely ladies, all frightened to go out at night. But even then, so they were speaking Arabic, and there was only 4 that had the basic kind of Swedish to be able to talk through the
They're basically told that they don't need to, because everyone else, like all the authorities, they have to go and see anyone.
It's a curious thing. Charlie, thank you very much for your call. When I went to meet the fire commander of the toughest fire station in Sweden, judged by the fact it has the most incidents, 4 members of his crew work full-time in schools teaching migrant children why they should not throw rocks at the vehicles or slash the tyres of the vehicles or cut the hoses when they're answering a shout. They've had 5 cutting tools stolen from inside the fire engine houses in this last year and a half alone, and that's why they're building this big reinforced fence. And I was looking at him saying, does it not strike you as, that we've lost all sense of humanity if we're having to teach children why not to cut the hoses of fire engines? And again, he looked at me like, well, I guess it's just become normal for me. It's normal for me, if they only throw 1 rock, I think, well, there we are, they've only thrown 1 rock today. It's a bit like when I was told, couldn't it just be a hand grenade in a bin? I walked back home that night, I was just like, am I the one that's mad, or are these people mad? And I actually think it might be them. Adam, you're in Bracknell, what would you like to say, sir?
Yeah, hello. So for my life, I've been racially abused 500 times within my life by white people. So that's when I've been attacked a few times, yeah? So please get this in context. And I used to live in Stockholm, and those areas you are talking about, and my friends and my colleagues at work lived in Akalla, which is very close to Rinkeby and Gista as well. So I don't know what picture you are painting of that is completely false.
Completely false.
Your right-wing narrative. You can. There are evil people in the world. A lot of the drug gangs that you're talking about, a lot of them, or most of them, are actually white Swedish people as
So
well.
the pictures that I've got of the places where I was talking about, the pictures of the gangs under the bridge that I have, that's those false as well? I made up the pictures? I made up the images?
I used to live in Oslo as well, and the Grunland, which is a very, very heavily migrant area, is transformed at night. It's very
So
safe.
I'm talking rubbish, Adam. Your assertion, Adam, just so we're super clear, is that I am talking rubbish.
I have been racially abused.
Yes, I got that 500 times. That seems like a very accurate statistic.
From the age of 6 up to the age of 22.
Okay, so that seems like a good argument for you, does it, Adam?
If you go to Leeds, you'll see there are no-go areas because there are white people around everywhere going crazy, and the white British are known for that. So please, when you're putting out this evil narrative, hate where now Muslims...
I don't know, it's not an evil narrative, Adam. It's not an evil narrative. I think what I'm doing is trying to give voice to women who feel they've been silenced by the feminists, who feel like they've been silenced by the politicians, and who feel like they've been hidden away because Sweden is determined to keep the narrative that it is some kind of utopia. We have got that Swedish report for you on LBC. You can grab it later, LBC.co.uk. I have all of my interviews on tape that you can hear, so that I guess if people say I'm making it up, well, I suppose the person I'm interviewing must be making it up as well. In this next hour, we're going to be talking about operations, surgery. Maybe you live with someone, maybe your wife or other half has had surgery, you've lived through it and you know what that experience is like. Maybe a year or two after surgery, there's still some big lessons you've taken away, not only the gratitude, but real lessons that your surgery taught you. I, for one, don't particularly like being told that wigs are really realistic these days. Just because they're realistic doesn't mean I want to wear one or want to be bold. 0345 606 0973. Your experiences of life after surgery, good, bad, and positively ugly.
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, Hilary Benz told LBC he's urging the government to protect the rights of EU citizens already living in the UK. He's chair of a cross-party group of MPs who say they shouldn't have to wait until Brexit negotiations have concluded to have their position clarified. The head of the Exiting the EU committees told LBC they shouldn't have to wait up to 2 years for it to be cleared up.
The committee is recommending in its report that the government takes a unilateral decision to safeguard their rights now. In other words, to say it's okay, you can stay, while of course continuing to urge the other 27 member states to do the same for the Brits abroad.
The 13,000 different qualifications available to 16 to 19-year-olds are going to be replaced with just 15. In the budget on Wednesday, the government's expected to also reveal plans to spend an extra £500 million on training. It's to try to improve young people's skills before Brexit. Donald Trump is being urged this morning to provide evidence of his Twitter claims that Barack Obama ordered a wiretap of him before last November's US presidential election. The former president's spokesperson is dismissing the allegation. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
In a statement that is in equal measure a rejection of Donald Trump's claim and a civics lesson for the US president, Barack Obama says it was a cardinal rule of his administration that no White House official ever interfered in a Department of Justice investigation. Donald Trump's spokesman so far cannot explain the president's tweets nor provide any evidence to support them. President Obama calls the claim that he ordered a phone tap simply false.
Campaigners are getting ready to take part in a march and rally ahead of International Women's Day on Wednesday. They want to show solidarity with women and girls around the world who suffer inequality and injustice. Helen Pankhurst, the great-granddaughter of suffragette leader Emmeline Pankhurst, will be taking part and has told LBC it's a march for people from any background.
What this march is about is bringing people together in celebration, but also with a sense that there's still so much to be done. And it is really about inclusion, so men and women, and with that international lens very much in our focus.
And the energy company SSE has apologised after faulty smart meters told customers they'd be charged up to £33,000 for one day's power. The firm says no one will be charged the extra amounts. LBC weather, chilly with heavy rain moving eastwards across the UK, turning windy in the north and south with a high of 9 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Glenn Moore.
Right, I need to pick up the kids from school.
Let me.
Are you sure?
No problem. I might as well pick up dinner as well.
Wow, that would
And go
be...
and get the dry cleaning. And I could drop those bags off at your mum's.
But you never visit my mum.
Oh, come on. I see her loads. She was at the wedding.
Whatever reasons you find to come back, you'll earn Tesco Club Card points when you fill up at Esso. Many happy returns. Participating sites only. Terms and minimum spend apply. See esso.co.uk for details.
LBC Travel, good morning, I'm Claire Sharp. We're starting in Perivale. Teignmouth Gardens is slow eastbound between the Medway Underpass and the Hoover Building because of an accident. And in Gants Hill, Cranbrook Road still closed both ways between the Gants Hill roundabout and Brownlee Crescent because of a police investigation. It's also looking slow heading into London on the A127 in Ardley Green at Squirrels Heath Road because of those ongoing roadworks. In Kent, the M2 is queuing westbound between junction 6 for Faversham and 5 at Sittingbourne. It's partially blocked because of an accident, and in Folkestone at the Eurotunnel there's waiting times of up to 30 minutes after a cancellation earlier on. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Katie Hopkins.
Good morning, this is Katie Hopkins here at LBC, and in this hour I would like to talk to you about life after surgery. So perhaps you're someone who's had surgery, knows of someone with surgery, or who's had surgery. Maybe you're a mother of a child and you have to make that huge decision, and I never want to be that mother that has to make that decision about a child. I think that is, in terms of being brave, it's all very well when it's a decision for yourself. The thought of making that decision for your child, I've had to do it a couple of times, but for relatively low-level things, it's a much more difficult conversation. So it's all of these sorts of things in life about decisions about surgery, the difficulty of waiting for surgery. And it comes from two places, this really. One today I've been writing about in the Mail on Sunday. There's my kind of thoughts a year on from my brain surgery, so my neurosurgery to cure my epilepsy, which has been cured brilliantly by the team at the National Hospital, to whom I'm, of course, forever grateful. But really, more interestingly than I think surgery that I was too scared to have, too scared to say goodbye to my children or tell them the truth about the surgery I was going to have. I couldn't say goodbye to my mum because I was too much of a coward. And my mum and I arranged that when she came to take over my house, we would walk past each other in the driveway, and we wouldn't talk to each other. So we just walked past each other. We didn't say anything. We didn't say goodbye or anything, because both of us would have got upset. So that was our deal. That was our way of saying goodbye, which is utterly British and utterly cowardly on my part, I'm sure. And all I could do to prepare for my surgery really was to do practical things. So I went into practical mode and I sorted out all the finances. I got a folder of doom and I put all of the things anybody would need to have, marriage certificates, birth certificates, where bits of money were, or anything about the children's medical files, or, you know, the bits of paperwork that would have been a nightmare to find, British gas statements, in the folder of doom, so that if I did pop off, it would be easy for people to sort out life after me. I told my husband he was never allowed to marry anyone ever again or date anyone ever again because I'm jealous and selfish. I always look at these stories of people who on their deathbed, there's a story at the moment, isn't there, of someone who wrote a dating profile for their husband for when he needed to meet someone new. I was never like that. I was like, no, if I pop off, you're to stay a spinster, a single man for the rest of your life. How nasty am I? So all of that stuff is like the pre-prep. And then in terms of surgery and afterwards, it's kind of lessons that I've learned. And that's what I'm also interested in, is sharing particular lessons when after my surgery on my head to remove this bit of my head that's been causing my fits. I had to kind of relearn walking. My left arm and left leg, particularly my left leg, was just a crazy leg doing what it wants. Things I learned, things like, architects are idiots. So architects think, I know, I'll make a beautiful staircase. We have one here in this building in Global, and it curves the staircase as you come in. Now, for someone who's relearning stairs and doesn't know where their left leg is, trying to look like you fit in amongst a whole kind of building full of like cool trendy people who work for like music stations, when you're this kind of idiot hobbling upstairs that you can't work out where they're going. I hate the architects of these stairs more than I hate my own mother-in-law, and she's dead. I learned things like having hair matters. I always said that, I'm Katie Hopkins, I don't need hair, probably not in this voice, but I'm going with it. I don't need hair. I'm better than hair. I'm not vain. I'm not a vain person. Turns out you do need hair. A lot of you will understand this, and do give me a call, 03456060973. If you've been made bald through maybe chemotherapy or having cancer or surgery, and you've been bald and know what that feels like to be bald. I think there's some interesting lessons there. I was always felt people used to come up to me a lot and say, "Ooh, you can get really realistic wigs these days." And I don't think I am. I'm sorry already. So you can get really realistic wigs, and you're like, why am I covering this up though? Is that to make you feel better, or me? I don't really want a wig. And then also, things like you can't afford after surgery to become this kind of weird benchmark, so that anyone that wants to share their pain with you, let's just say my friend says, "Oh, I've got really bad toothache." And you think to yourself, yeah, I had brain surgery, get over it. You can't do that. So if someone says to you, you've had toothache, they've got toothache, you've got to make your ouch face, offer them paracetamol, talk about how horrible toothache is, because toothache is horrible. We all know toothache and earache, one of the worst two things you can get. So don't ever, my lesson for myself is not to make yourself the benchmark of pain just because you may have had half your brain chopped off. Don't make yourself I'm not going to be sympathetic to anyone ever, because that makes you a really rubbish daughter, and it makes you a really rubbish mum, and probably quite a rubbish wife as well. So it's sort of lessons, and they're not all dreary. My lessons, most of them, they're quite fun, really. One of them is my promo shots for this show, actually. A year ago, I went from the National Hospital to a shop opposite the National Hospital nearly, and bought a top. And the ladies in the shop told me the top looked great. And I have seen those promo shots, and one of the shots is in the paper today, actually, and it is the worst thing ever. My colleagues here were like, "What were you on when you bought that top?" And I was like, "Yes, morphine." And half the back of my head was missing in that promo shot, and we all thought that was a good idea. Never buy clothes when you're on morphine. So do give me a call. They don't have to be funny stories. Many of you, I know that there's a really serious story, which is where you have an operation to cure yourself of something, but you come out a little bit broken. And the little bit broken can be really mortifying. And I remember I've been on stairs before with people behind me tutting, and I've gone and had a cry in the KFC because I felt like this curiously disabled person that before I could hide my epilepsy, but I couldn't hide not being able to walk up the stairs. So it's a sort of conversation about being a little bit broken, and how that can be really awkward sometimes when you're used to pretending you're fine. 03456060973. Michelle, you're in St Albans. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi, Katie.
Hi.
I'd just like to say I had a number of surgeries since 2011, but by far the biggest one was when I had both my jaw joints replaced in September. And they had to shave off both sides of my head. So when I came out of intensive care, I not only lost my hair on both sides, and it was really long, but then 2 days after that, I developed a Bell's palsy on the right side. So completely, my eye was wide open. My lip was right down to my chin.
It's isn't that where your face, excuse my ignorance, sort of droops, or it loses you lose some kind of the muscle
tone.
Yes,
they
tone.
cut through the masseter muscle, so you lose everything, and then the nerves are damaged. And then I'd had stitches actually left in that was started at the top of my head and ran right down the side of my ear, right to under my chin, and that was difficult enough, and my face swelled up 3 times the size it should be. But when I finally came out of hospital, I had to learn to eat again, and I was on liquid diet with a syringe for quite some time. But I kind of stayed in, and I got quite depressed about it because I didn't want to go out and people see this horrific face that had all these stitches and, shaved head, and it was quite very swollen. And also had this eye that was stuck open and the side of my face was drooped.
And Michelle, now, how is it? How is your face now? Your stitches?
So thankfully, my hair's growing back.
Yeah.
So that's all covered over, and I highlighted it to make myself feel a little bit better.
Don't we all?
My eye has recovered completely, thankfully, because I've had a fantastic surgeons looking after me, and an eye chap looked after me as well locally.
Yeah.
I have my lips totally recovered, so I look me again, which is great. However, I have developed a lisp, and the more tired I get, the worse it gets.
Did you say you've developed a lisp? Yep, sorry,
lisp.
got it.
So S's are quite difficult. And
No,
the
you're
more
good.
tired I get, the more obvious it gets, and I'm more conscious of that.
Yes, I was going to say, Michelle, is it sometimes the case, and I'm thinking of myself in so much of this, in the sense of things about my little bits and bobs that aren't quite what they were, that you possibly, Michelle, are more conscious of it, do you think, than other people are?
Absolutely. I mean, even my face, you can just about see the scars. I feel fantastically, and there's a bit, some more obvious under my chin. But my husband and my children say, "You look great. You look brilliant, Mummy. You're not scary at all." And I look in the mirror and I feel quite downhearted. I can't seem to get my makeup quite right. I can't seem to just get over that bit that I'm not how I was before I had the operation. It's even changed me slightly emotionally, because now I think I'm a bit more sensitive to things.
It's so fascinating, Michelle. You're cool. I think what you've done, thank you for doing this, is articulate possibly, and you speak for me when you're speaking, is articulate this strange void between the enormous gratitude we all share, having an operation that is so, complex and difficult, and goodness only knows how people do that stuff, and then this weird void between it fixing you, but somehow leaving you a bit broken or dented.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm left with quite a lot of nerve damage, so I'm having some infusions at the moment to settle it down. And whilst other people can't see it, the nerve pain's very, very painful, but it's not obvious. So when I'm having a bad day, I just slip back into myself. I don't want to see anyone, and, I tend to avoid people. And no one gets the pain that you're
experiencing. I get that totally. And Michelle, did you also find that when you were in hospital, it was better than when you had to go home and face the world outside of a cocoon where everybody, and excuse my expression, were sort of freaks or oddities, or we all limped, or do you know what I mean?
It's because it's a safety net. When you're in hospital and you're there and you're being treated and you're having your medications and the doctors are coming around, they're checking on everything. You're in this bubble, this safety net. Everybody's in there for similar things, but you're all in there for surgical reasons and recovery afterwards. But as soon as you step outside, no one can share the empathy that you are going through, because show you the empathy towards what you're going through, because they can't share your feelings because they can't understand. And even though I've got a great understanding relationship with my husband, and my children are fantastic, this surgical things have been going on for me for years, all over my joints. But to other people, you either get, oh, you're having a good day today, you look fantastic, and another day, and it's constantly trying to keep up with explaining how you are.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your story. I do think it's a curious thing when people say, I think you're very brave, and you kind of look at them and think, you don't know half of what's going on behind here. But I do think having the courage to even get to the surgery that you know is going to do that to you is something which I'd always said I'd rather have been knocked over in the road, because then at least you didn't get a choice. Michelle, thank you so much for your call. So we're talking about surgery, and particularly maybe successful surgery, so you're super grateful, but at the same time the way it may have changed you a bit and left you feeling a little bit dented, but maybe also not able to talk about feeling a bit dented because everybody thinks you're better. 03456060973, text 84850. My name's Katie Hopkins. This is LBC and the time is 11:18.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
The story that just will not go away, Brexit, and we haven't even Brexited. Gina Miller, to remind you, she of course was behind the legal case over the Brexit. Now she's possibly getting ready to move again to try and guarantee a meaningful vote on any new deal with the EU. Might I ask you, how much have you spent to date?
Hundreds of thousands.
You could have had a lovely couple of really nice cars from that. Why are you doing this?
I love Britain. I love this country. It's where my children were born, and I can't think of anything better to do with my money that I've earned, and it is my money, than to make sure that we have proper process as we go forward.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, making you welcome at over 40 hotels in Europe.
Repeat after me. I, Colin Hinchcliffe, do solemnly swear.
I, Colin Hinchcliffe, do solemnly swear.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
And save up to £220. If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £11,000 and your partner earns less than £43,000, you could receive up to £220. If you were eligible last year and didn't claim, you could get up to £432. Apply now at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
Can I help, madam?
I was just having a look at the Nissan Qashqai over there, and someone left this briefcase full of so much money.
£2,150 to be exact. It's a brand new feature.
A new feature?
Yes, if you buy it this March, that's how much we'll put towards your deposit.
For March only, Nissan are contributing £2,150 towards your new Qashqai, up to £2,550 towards a Duke, and £3,150 towards an X-Trail at 3.99% APR representative. And hurry, new Nissans registered by the 31st of March will avoid the increase in government road tax, so head to your local Nissan dealer now. Contribution only available with Nissan Finance. Subject to status, over 18s. Participating dealers only. Excludes Visiograde. T's and C's at nissan.co.uk. Money won't really be in a briefcase.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay. List your items for free and only pay when you sell. So there's never been a better time to get on eBay. Private sellers only. Conditions and exclusions apply.
This is a live update for UK businesses. From award-winning cider to fresh line caught salmon, the UK is renowned for its quality produce. If you're in food and drink, it's time to take your next step by selling overseas. To get a taste for what's out there, search Exporting is Great.
Fast Track Reclaim.
PPI, one question. Why have you still not checked if you're due a refund? Even if you don't know if you've had PPI, surely it's worth finding out. All Fast Track Reclaim needs is the name of your bank. No paperwork, no account numbers, just the name of your bank. We'll check PPI on every credit card, loan and mortgage you've ever had. Find out now. Text YES to 82727.
Fast Track Reclaim. Text YES to 82727.
In any club, performance has its rewards. From approval to achievement to satisfaction. But right now for Shell Drivers Club members, performance has an extra reward. Because when you fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus, our best performance fuel, you'll get triple points for every litre you buy. Visit your local Shell service station today. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends 29th of March. Please see shell.co.uk/triple points/terms.
I'm Tom. I'm in year 11. I was always getting told off for talking, so I thought about the debating team. Now I'm thinking about university.
I put the debating team flyer on his desk. Was sick of telling him to pipe down. I wanted to put his voice to better use. Now he's thinking about university. I teach year 11. I'm Mr. Corbett.
Apply now and you could get a £25,000 tax-free training bursary to teach subjects like maths and languages. Search Get Into Teaching. Subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
Katie Hopkins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is Katie Hopkins here at LBC, and we're talking about surgeries. Surgeries that maybe left you a little bit broken or fixed, or how you reconciled your new life with your old one. David, you're in Balham. What would you like to say? David?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Basically, I had an operation 5 years ago for a stroke I had. And it was a thing called a DBS, which is a deep brain stimulator. Put in, yeah. It's very much like a pacemaker for the brain.
Yeah.
I ended up having synesthesia.
What on earth is that?
It's when you see colours from noises.
No, you did not.
I did, and do you know what? It's the greatest gift I've ever been given.
Oh, so tell me how it... Explain to me and others like me, or maybe there aren't many others like me, but explain to people how this works for you on a practical basis. So if you hear someone talk, is it a dog barking, a person talking?
It's more about sounds. It's like if I hear the sound of metal chinking, like in a restaurant.
Yes.
It will be bright colours, bright yellows. And then you'll have somebody talking to me who, say, from up north, and there'd be a very violet colour. It's very odd. It's
How
different
brilliant.
circumstances. And then you'll get a mixture of noises, which, will give you a rainbow effect.
And do you see the colours, are they projected in front of you, or are they inside your eyes, your vision?
Yeah, in the middle eye of the head. That's the only place I can tell you that's where it is.
And, what about a vacuum cleaner?
That would be definitely a sort of grey to blue.
I love this. And nearly, or most things haven't, do you ever get a warning of something through the colours of the noise?
No, not really, no.
And
like the sound of water, that can changes colour with the depth of water.
Ooh.
So if a sink is filling up, it would change gently to different colours.
No way.
Yeah.
As it's filling up?
As it's filling up, yeah.
And is my voice like a really angry red noise, verging on purple?
No, you're definitely a liar.
Oh, thank God, I'm in the Conservative quarter. Hurrah.
But listen, Katie, before I go, can I just say I love you, and I love the way that you push agendas forward, which need to be heard about.
Oh, thank you, David. That's so kind. I'm more excited, to be honest, about you and the fact that you had an operation for a stroke, which I'm sorry about. That's not an easy thing to go through. But as a result, something almost beautiful came out of the back of that. Something beautiful into your life.
And I'm a Christian, but I think it's a great gift from God for me.
Oh, what a lovely thing, David. Thank you. I'm going to take that with me. I want to see colours now when I hear noises. I want to be more like you, David. Thank you so much for your call. I love that very much. Sarah, you're in Welwyn Garden City. What would you like to say?
Hello, Katie. Thank you for taking my call.
That's right.
2004, I had spinal surgery on my neck. I had a double discectomy because I had 2 discs compressing my spinal column, one wrong move, and I'd been paralysed from the neck down. I'd been suffering with that for 13 years. It took them 14 years to find it. So I had the operation, thought everything was going to be fine, had cages and plates put in, and I actually ended up with severe nerve damage from head to foot. My epilepsy came back with full force.
Oh.
I've had over 10 mini strokes.
So in terms of Sarah, I suppose the bigger picture sounds like not a great phrase to use here, but your point is since your surgery, things have gone from bad to worse. And I guess the question then is do you regret surgery?
No, I don't, because it was my only option. I mean, one wrong move, I could have been paralysed from the neck down.
But
I'm in constant pain, but I put a smile on my face. I feel like my body feels like an 80-year-old, and I've only just turned 50.
Do you ever look at some people, Sarah, who get given what I would call perfect bodies and then sometimes mistreat them? So I would think about very overweight people here. But people that get given perfect bodies, do you ever want to go up to them and go, do you know how lucky you are?
Sometimes.
I get that.
Yes, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, Katie, and I think you are an inspiration to everyone and that, especially with the operation you've had. because I was offered that a long time ago when I was a lot younger, but it was in its infancy.
Yes.
So it would have been very much trial and error because I suffered epilepsy from the age of 6.
Yes, no, I could be. If people called today and said that they were offered it and got to the day before and didn't go, I get that. I wasn't going. 3 weeks before, I wasn't going. So I get that completely.
I completely understand that,
Yeah.
and I think you are, well, you just say the right things. And as for your previous hour, I'd just like to say, it was a wonderful last hour.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to me as well.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thanks for calling, and all the best and good luck with all of your things you've got to put up with every day. I think sometimes we forget, don't we, how lucky we are, but you're never going to get out of bed in the morning and go, oh, how lucky I am. We're just not built that way. Thank you so much for your call. Hamid, you're in Manchester. What would you like to say, sir?
Well, 20 years old. I got this thing called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and they basically meant I was quite paralysed.
Right.
Out of nowhere, my knees messed up my nerve system, and eventually I couldn't breathe because the breathing muscles were damaged. So they put a tracheostomy in.
Yes.
And put me in a ventilator. So I was on that for 7 weeks.
7 weeks?
Yeah.
Were you, just so I get the picture, and I appreciate you should know things like this, but were you lying down for 7 weeks?
Effectively, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was all right, but yeah, for me it was quite surprising, quite a positive experience.
Because
for me it was, because I don't know, a lot of people around me, and I felt like a lot of people showed me a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion. It felt great, and I felt like a lot of people do get. But I think the most difficult thing was when you actually see people pass away, because when you're in intensive care, you actually do see it happen. So I think the first couple of days, I was in Nottingham because I was a science student. But in Nottingham, I think the first couple of days I just saw somebody whoa, and it was just I just think the mental implications from illnesses and surgeries and operations can sometimes be just as worse as the physical implication. That makes sense?
Oh, absolutely makes sense. And that's exactly, really, that's what we're talking about this hour. I think it is more I think sometimes we go into surgery and we listen a lot about the physical adjustments, the physical nature, where they're going to cut, how long it will take. We go down a practical checklist of what our operation will involve physically. But what we don't allow ourselves, I think, very well, is time to think about the emotional upheaval or the emotional journey that you might go through. I remember Hamid in intensive care having a bed bath, and I remember being in floods of tears, even though the nurse was so nice to me. She couldn't have been nicer, but it was the idea that I was, I like to think of myself as invincible, and you're lying there having a bed bath, and I just remember these tears streaming down my face because I felt like I'd been reduced to this person who couldn't even wash herself. So I think the emotional thing is much bigger. Even when physical is massive, the emotional thing is much bigger. Thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it. This is LBC. The time is now 11:30. News time with Glenn Moore.
Hilary Benz told LBC the government should immediately say whether EU citizens living in the UK will be able to stay after Brexit. Separately, Chancellor Philip Hammond's warned the EU that Britain will fight back if it does not get the Brexit deal it wants. Donald Trump's being urged to provide evidence of his claims Barack Obama's denied that he ordered a wiretap of him before the US presidential election. And MPs are calling for the Queen's historic 65 years on the throne this June to be marked with a national public holiday. LBC weather chilly with heavy rain moving eastwards across the UK, turning windy in the north and south with a high of 9 degrees.
This is LBC. In any club, performance has its rewards. From approval to achievement to satisfaction. But right now for Shell Drivers Club members, performance has an extra reward. Because when you fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus, our best performance fuel, you'll get triple points for every litre you buy. Visit your local Shell service station today. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends 29th of March. Please see shell.co.uk/triple-point/terms.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Every day, millions of consumers are shopping online for quality UK goods. And right now, some of the world's leading online marketplaces have reduced selling costs for UK businesses. To enjoy these exclusive discounts and to find the right online marketplace for you, search Exporting is Great.
Grab your suitcase, napkin, and the Sunday Times and let your taste buds wander with the Dishes Travel Special. Try Israeli street food, spices in San Diego, and polenta in Tuscany. Plus, enjoy recipes from Jamie Oliver, Candice Brown, and top chefs from around the world. Pick up your copy of the Sunday Times this weekend.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning.
Hamsey Sleep Centres have been selling beds for over 40 years.
Wake up, it's so beautiful.
With 5,000 beds in stock, our Sleep Centre specialists are here to help you choose the right one for you. And right now, every bed is reduced by up to half price, plus free delivery and free disposal of your old one. But hurry, it's this month only. Hamsey Sleep Centres in London, the South East, and online at hamseys.co.uk. Conditions apply.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay. List your items for free and only pay when you sell. So there's never been a better time to get on eBay. Private sellers only, conditions and exclusions apply.
Repeat after me. I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
Yes, to apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
And save up to £220. If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £11,000 and your partner earns less than £43,000, you could receive up to £220. If you were eligible last year and didn't claim, you could get up to £432. Apply now at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
I've broken down, Churchy. Cars like me belong in the fast lane, not the hard shoulder.
Oh, yes.
Oh, now I'm really going to blow a gasket.
No.
Don't end up stranded when you break down. Churchill offers new motor customers free breakdown cover.
Oh, Churchy, my knight in furry armour.
Oh.
Churchill, depend on the dog. First year free breakdown service provided by Green Flag, roadside only, new business policies only, excludes NI, underwritten by UK Insurance Limited, terms and conditions apply.
Katie Hopkins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is Katie Hopkins here at LBC, and a year on from my surgery, I'm talking to you about yours, your experiences, also the kind of emotional side. We were talking about how we think a lot about the physical process, and we ask the surgeon to explain how long, how many stitches, whereabouts, what will I miss the feeling in, but we sort of miss out almost on the kind of emotional impact and the fact that sometimes, whilst we may cure the big problem, my epilepsy is cured, and I could not be more grateful. You do have this bit where you're a bit broken for a while, and then you wonder what you've done to yourself. You know, I could hide my epilepsy. I hid it for sort of 20 odd years, but I couldn't hide this whopping great gash which went from one ear to another with 54 staples in it. I couldn't hide the fact that I was hobbling upstairs, couldn't work out where my left leg was. It still touches people under restaurant tables now of its own accord, and I don't know it's doing it. And then I see someone's face move and I think, oh God, I'm touching them up with my left leg, and I have to pull my left leg back and then apologise. So that still happens. And so something went for me from being able to be concealed to being very visible, which, as you can imagine, I hate, because I hate the idea that I have any kind of anything that makes me less tough than I imagine I am. So we're talking about your experiences. Michelle shared a lovely story about how she had stuff done that left her quite depressed for a while, unable to go out sometimes, you know, loss of confidence, maybe even changing the person she was. Brendan, you're in Nottingham. What would you like to say, sir?
Well, basically, Katie, with me, it was similar to yourself, but many, many years ago. I was born in 1962, and about 66, 67, 4 or 5, I had a severe dose of measles. Soon after having the measles, my epilepsy started, and at the time, I know they've changed the names for it now, I had what they call petit mal.
I know, I started with that.
Just sort of sit there and dribble, you know, like into a daze and then pull out of it. I had those until I was 14, and then they turned to grand mal. And obviously, you know, you fall to the floor, you shake, you all that, you know, all the things. And by the time I was 16, I was on 13 tablets totaling 2,200 milligrams of phenobarbital, phenytoin, epilim, and tegretol per day.
Yeah.
And I was having 25 to 35 convulsions, grand mal, per month.
Okay.
Now, the surgery in 1978, when I was 16, was still pioneering surgery. All I can say, based on what some of your listeners have already said, is thank goodness I was only 16, because although I was old enough to sign the approval to have the operation, between you and me, I didn't realise the seriousness of what's going to happen. So I'm pleased I didn't realise, because I was simply saying I trust doctors and they'll look after me. Now, they told me when I was 16, they said, we won't know till you're 21 whether it's worked or not. And I said, why not? They said, because your body changes every 7 years. That's why the epilepsy got worse when you were 14. We won't know if you've grown out of it till you're 21. After the surgery, which lasted 7.5 hours, the epilepsy showed positive signs of moving from grand mal to petit mal. And I had my last seizure 2 weeks before my 22nd birthday, and I'm 55 today.
Aww. I'm so pleased for you. I'm so It changed it. I guess it changed everything in terms of the way you could live your life.
Absolutely. Until then, I'm the eldest of 5. And when I was younger, my 3 sisters and my brother, they sacrificed a lot because my parents, so I didn't suffer depression I don't mean like modern depression, but sadness. They weren't allowed bicycles because I couldn't have anything like that. They weren't allowed things I weren't able to have. So, and it was thanks to a very loving and supporting family that I got through what I got through. As far as the negatives, the only negative looking back, I mean, I'm pleased to say goodbye to the bullying. I used to be beaten up at school because I had epilepsy. And when after the surgery, when the epilepsy was obviously getting milder and slowly on its way out, I went for a job with a company. I won't mention the company, it's all history, it's all those years ago now, but basically it was under control, just the odd minor seizure by then. And she said, is there anything else? I said, well, just to let you know, I've got a minor form of epilepsy. It's under control. And she goes, pardon? And I said, it's a minor form of epilepsy. Don't worry. What about the people you work with? I said, they're fine. There's no problem. Are you sure? And she said, we'll let you know. She ushered me out the office, and I got a letter. First delivery the following morning. Dear sir, sorry, no vacancies.
I completely. I don't think this is me speaking from a personal perspective, and this would not be the advice of the Epilepsy Association or anyone else that thinks you should talk about everything these days. But if it was my children that ever had this, and I think that's when I have letters from parents whose children have epilepsy, it's one of the things that my heart hurts because the thought of that is too awful to think of your child having those fits, and is always, I would never tell somebody that I was going to work for until I'd been offered the job. And that sounds, and that's exactly the reason I suspect I lied.
I was just very naive.
No, I'm not saying you did that. I'm not. You were being honest, Brendan, and that is a noble thing. I lied, and that's not so noble. But the point was, Brendan, I wanted to prove I could do stuff. And I always think if you tell people your weakness, which is how I perceived epilepsy. Yeah, but Brendan, you were the right. I'm sure you were in the right.
No, but the only negative that's come out of the whole lot, and obviously everything else, 99.9% is positive. One thing they warned me, and one thing that has come true, my memory.
I know.
Many times when I was young, I'll be with my family. Oh, do you remember that time so-and-so? And everyone's laughing, saying, oh, yeah.
You haven't got a Scooby.
I can't. You're right.
And that
more price to pay for.
Also, Brendan,
so I just laugh.
It also means, Darl, that those Christmases that were truly awful, or the time you had a massive row with like your sister or whatever. I'm not suggesting you do, or times in my life where I've done something massively humiliating. You're allowed to let those go, Brendan. You let that memory go, sweetie.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else, finishing off. If nothing else, Katie, my parents. The way they supported me, they didn't smother me in cotton wool in any way, thank goodness. They pushed me as hard, if not harder.
Yeah.
And, as a result, I was the first one in my family to get on the housing ladder. I've done okay in my life, and all I can say is thank you so much to the support of the hospital and my family that I got where I got.
Yeah, quite a different life now. Brendan, thank you so much for your call. Really interesting. Thank you. And also interesting that your brothers and sisters weren't allowed to have bikes if you couldn't ride them. I think that's a really sweet thing, although I don't know if your brother at some point would have hated you for that. Alan, you're in Sutton, sir. What would you like to say about your experiences maybe after surgery?
Hi, Katie. I was operated for bowel cancer, or more precisely, rectal cancer, last September, and as a result of which I no longer have a bum, and I have permanently have a bag hanging.
You have a bag,
my abdomen, as it were, first of all, I thought this is going to be hell now for the rest of my life, having this thing attached all the time, but my main problem seemed to be afterwards was how to dress.
Yes.
Because, a belt sort of crosses it, and you wonder, will it flow? And so anyway, I've got over that problem, and to begin with, I had a bit of a problem attaching the damn bag, you know.
Yes, I hear this. My granddad has one, and sometimes there's a bit of a bag drama.
It is to start with, but you get used to it, and now I seem to be able to do it pretty well, perfectly every time. So as I tell people, I'm getting the hang of it, you know.
Alan, can I ask you a strange question that's not appropriate for radio?
Yes.
My producer's just fallen off her chair.
Oh.
So anyway, let's carry along.
Why did she hang off her chair? What did I say?
No, you haven't said anything. But when I say things like, I'm going to ask you something that's not appropriate for radio, she already sees both of our jobs going out the window. So she has a little worry. I don't worry, whatever. Alan, let me ask you a question. Some gentlemen, thinking of my own husband and my father, like to spend a relatively protracted period of time sitting in a bathroom in, let's just say, the morning.
I used to read, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Alan. Now you've got bags. What do you still just sit there for a bit, have a little read?
I don't sit. I haven't sat on the toilet for ages.
Do you not miss it? When do you do your moment of reflection of the day?
I have to. Well, yeah, it's difficult because.
Would you change a bag? Can you change a bag and reflect?
Oh no! You have to concentrate on what you're doing. But no, I tend to. I try and wake up a bit early in the morning and read in bed for a while before I get up.
Ah, that's your reflection. So you've just changed the venue.
Yes, really, because I spend lots of time in the bathroom, but not sitting.
No, well, I hear. Well, Alan, we won't go into that, darling. I really will be fired. Well, good on you, Alan, and your bags. And I'm going to ask you something else on behalf of people that might want to know or are shy. When I know I'm not. How about things like, can you go swimming and stuff? Does that happen, or is that no?
I haven't.
No.
I could.
Yes.
I don't. But I have got back on the tennis court. I said.
Oh, bless you.
I said within, after the operation, I said, right, my aim is to be back on the tennis court within 3 months, and I was. So that was good. And the thing was, just before the operation, about 5 days before it, I had an urgent phone call from the cardiology department of the hospital saying that I have a problem with my heart because they'd attached a halter to me, and just to check a few things, and they found I have atrial fibrillation, if you know what that is.
Ooh.
It's a sort of the heartbeat can be, you can get an irregular beat now.
Oh yes, I know.
And they said it might be difficult, you might not be able to go through the operation. And I thought, God, having been through all the chemo and radio, which was very painful, I thought, I don't want to miss this out. So they did let me go through with it. But the night after the operation, I was rushed downstairs for immediate attention because my heartbeat went up to 150 a minute. And I spent 5 days in high dependency unit. But I imagine after 10 days in bed or so without getting up, I had to learn to walk again, the same as you did, I suppose, but probably not as badly as you.
Yeah, no, Alan, I do see that, and I do see actually the sophistication, and thank you for sharing your story, A, about bowel cancer, A, about living life with a bag, because I think it's useful that there's many of us out there with bits that we don't necessarily show, but make our lives a bit more difficult, and I think people should be more open about this stuff. But also I have a feeling sometimes, Alan, I have to say, these days when I have to get up 3 times in the night for a wee, I sometimes think a bag's quite effective. I know yours is in a different bit, but it'd be quite nice. I remember being in hospital for 3 months with a tube, thinking it was quite nice. You don't have to get up to have a wee. It's quite efficient. So there are plus sides that we can find. Anyway, on that subject, we're talking about surgery, and Alan and I were just having a little chat about his life after surgery, talking about how sometimes the bit of you that we were trying to mend got better, like I got rid of my epilepsy, but the little bit of you that we leave behind that might be a bit more broken, sometimes that's the bit that becomes more difficult to deal with afterwards, like training my left leg to walk again. Maybe you want to share your stories about your surgery, or maybe living with someone who's found it difficult even to cope after surgery, or maybe you have a positive story after surgery, like our lovely caller who sees colours now when he hears sounds. I love that idea. 0345 6060 973. My name is Katie Hopkins. The time is 11:46, and this is LBC.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
President Trump has been urged to provide evidence to back his allegation that Obama tapped his phones. Did Obama wiretap Trump's phones?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
John? I think we need to make our marriage work harder.
What? It's the moustache, isn't it?
No, it's our marriage allowance. There's up to £220 waiting for us to claim. Although I think you could lose the moustache.
Esther,
If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £11,000 and your partner earns less than £43,000, you could receive up to £220. If you were eligible last year and didn't claim, you could get up to £432. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply online at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
All right, Steve, you're looking well.
Yeah, well, I'm lifting a lot more.
Working hard. Looking good, eh?
Yeah, and business is on the up.
Oh, so what brought all this on?
Well, she's Italian.
Nice.
And large, actually.
Well, there's a lot to be said for
She can carry a lot, too.
Right. She's a van, isn't she?
Save up to £13,000 off list price at the Fiat Professional Knockout Sales Event. Hurry, this offer must end 31st of March. Get down to your local dealer now. Terms and conditions apply. Saving refers to discount on all Ducato long wheelbase models from 27545, excluding VAT at 20%, delivery and RFL. Visit fitprofessional.co.uk for more information.
Grab your suitcase, napkin, and the Sunday Times and let your taste buds wander with the Dishes Travel Special. Try Israeli street food, spices in San Diego, and polenta in Tuscany. Plus, enjoy recipes from Jamie Oliver, Candice Brown, and top chefs from around the world. Pick up your copy of the Sunday Times this weekend.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Right now, you can find essential information and services about selling overseas through the government's website for exporters. Find the right information and help to grow your business. Visit great.gov.uk.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay. List your items for free and only pay when you sell. So there's never been a better time to get on eBay. Private sellers only, conditions and exclusions apply.
Whether your business is carpentry, catering, or dog grooming, in an ever-changing economy, HSBC could help your business grow. Last year, we approved 91% of business lending for startups and businesses switching to us. For an indication of loan eligibility in just 2 minutes, search HSBC Business Lending.
Approval rate based on lending approvals up to £30,000 in 2016. Subject to credit status. Results of business lending eligibility checker indicative only. T's and C's apply. See website.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Katie Hopkins.
Good morning, this is Katie Hopkins here at LBC, and we're talking about surgery, your experiences after surgery, and some positive, some negative. Lovely Anne and I there having a good old chat about his bag that he's had fitted after surgery. I find it fascinating personally, and I think we should talk about these sorts of things a lot more. Some of you eating your cornflakes may disagree. Naomi, you're in Lightwater. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi there, Katie. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for ringing.
Is it okay? Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got a bit of a cough at the moment as well.
No, go for your life. If you need to cough, yeah, do it to the side. Just don't do it down the line. Right, go you.
Okay, so I've got something called Poem syndrome, which is incredibly rare. I got diagnosed just over 2 years ago now, after about 6 months of various different tests and things. It's very similar in a sense when you're first diagnosed to GBS, which is Guillain-Barré syndrome, which I can't remember his name, the guy you spoke to earlier, the young guy who had that.
Yes.
It's similar to that, where your nerves kind of stop working and stop speaking to the rest of the muscles in your body, especially in your legs and arms. So it's similar to that, and then there's another form of it called CIDP, which is like a long-term version. So I've got something, it gets misdiagnosed. I ended up with this thing called Poem syndrome, which some people have a cancer with it as well, and unfortunately I did. In the space of about 6 weeks, I went from being completely able-bodied, doing my house up with my husband, running up and down ladders, to not even being able to walk upstairs.
No.
And then within 6 months, I then fell. The little bit of mobility I had left, I then fell, and then ended up in a wheelchair. So for the last 2 years now, I've been in a wheelchair. At the same time as all of that, they then said, you've got something called a plasmacytoma, which quite often happens with this Poem syndrome. So that was a cancer as well, so they've got to treat that. So I had radiotherapy, then a low-dose chemotherapy, and all the time I was getting worse. And within London Hospital, UCLH, for 13 weeks, and then went on to rehab for 13 weeks. But by that point, I'd lost pretty much everything. I even lost the use of my hands and my arms.
So let me just get this, Naomi. Within a period of really, you were saying weeks, you went from being super healthy, nothing wrong with you effectively, to being in a wheelchair. And from that point, I was going to say progressed, but I suppose we would say regressed to not being able to feel your hands.
Yeah, well, pretty much. It took about 6 months to go to the wheelchair, but from being completely able-bodied to almost literally walking with crutches and lost my balance completely, and to get up the stairs was on my hands and knees. That took about sort of 6 to 8 weeks, I think. And the rest of it came afterwards. But the minute you lose, when your nerves aren't working like that, the minute you actually lose the rest of your mobility, it goes like that. I was laid up in bed because I hurt my ankle, and I was in hospital having radiotherapy, and I couldn't keep travelling because you get tired with it and nothing works.
Where have you come to with all of this, Naomi, in terms of your personal sort of journey, your emotional experience?
Yeah, okay, so since then I've had radiotherapy, low-dose chemotherapy, I've had a stem cell transplant last year, which is basically trying to fix it, so in the future I start getting better, which I am, because I'm strong now. I'm at the point now I'm standing up. I'm going to be going back to rehab again, hopefully soon, to get me walking again. I'll never be the same, I know that, but it's slowly coming back. The cancer's gone, which is great, and I lost all my hair as well, so when you were like...
Oh, did you?
Yeah, when you were talking about wearing wigs, I'm the same as you, I didn't want to wear a wig.
Did you get a wig? No.
I got one, that's not me, it looked ridiculous. People kept saying to me, oh, you look lovely. I said, no, I don't. I look
I'm not laughing, just for clarity, Naomi, I'm not laughing at you at all. I'm laughing at our shared experience.
Yeah, I ended up just not bothering to wear the wig, going out, and I was obviously in a wheelchair, and we went round IKEA, I think, and my hair was really falling out. I had hardly any left. And it was quite funny in the end, because my husband said, everyone keeps staring at me.
Yeah, they do.
Laugh at it. And I was like, I wonder if they're saying I'm in a wheelchair, or because I've got,
I think it's the hair.
I haven't got any hair. But we just laughed. It's funny. But now it's growing back.
But do you think, Naomi, do you think, and I'm interested here because you will be speaking for many women that have had different conditions. We have got there through a different route, many of us, better or worse, I'm sure. That weird thing of having no hair or patchy hair or bits that are bald and others aren't, the weird hair, as I would call it. It is when people are looking at you in with that nice sympathy face that they're trying to put for you.
Yeah.
That's a curious moment. I've looked at a lot of people in the eye when they're looking at me with sympathy, and part of you wants to go, don't be sympathetic, I'm fine. And part of you is kind of grateful because they're showing they care. Where do you sit in there, in that little bit?
I don't know, to be honest, because it's difficult, because some people look at you and they do this, they'll go, oh,
I know.
And I think, I just haven't got any hair, get over it. It's not a big deal.
It's so true.
But yeah, I think I probably worry too much what other people think.
That's what my husband said.
I hope I don't worry them. I don't want to scare children, because I would look weird.
That's what and I wouldn't show. Yeah, when I got my pictures of my wound and my thing, I wouldn't let my husband show my mum. Obviously we didn't show the children, but I wouldn't let him show my mum, and I wouldn't show my mum my scar because I didn't want her to look at it and think it was horrible or worry.
I think that's it. I think you do probably worry a bit more about other people rather than necessarily yourself, because you're just dealing with it, you just get on with it. But one thing I wanted to say, if it's okay, is on a positivity note, when I was in the hospital and I was at my absolute worst, I was getting worse, not better, and I said to my doctor, I said, it's all going up my arms now, I can't even lift my laptop, I can't lift a cup, I can't do anything. She kept saying, give it time, you have to give it time, the drugs will kick in, everything will start working, we know what it is now. And for all those people who may be sitting there thinking, I'm really depressed, I just can't see how I'm going to live a normal life, for whatever they've got wrong with them, you just have to be positive, because my husband gave me a bit of a talking to, I think, and he's pretty good at that. He said to me, come on, you've got to snap out of it. You are the only one now who's going to help yourself get better.
Do you think, Naomi...
I'm so much better now.
Do you think, Naomi, though, that sometimes happens and you have to get to that point almost where you set a bar for yourself, and I think I did this, where it's a sort of, yay, I survived. I've reached this point to now, if I'm a little bit miserable, that's okay, and if I'm a little bit this, and if I look a bit rubbish, that's okay. And you need that person who turns out to be your husband, who I'm sure is lovely. For me, it's a young person, that I work with, who looked at me one day and went, oh, will you stop looking like such a bleeping chemo patient? And actually, she was brilliant and genius, because she was kind of saying what your husband said to you, which is snap out of it. Like, stop wallowing in your own somethingness.
Yeah, I think when there's almost, you have to treat it like there's a job to be done.
Yes.
And rather than just lying there or sitting there feeling sorry for yourself and thinking, I'm never going to get better, you've got to sit there and think, I have to get better. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be stuck like this. I want to be normal again. I want to feel normal again. I want to be like I was. I want to have the life I had before.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be quite the same. But you think, come on, just push, and then you focus your energies on something else.
Yes,
and
but I think, Naomi, it's also good. Yeah, I think it's also good, don't you, Naomi, though, that people are also honest that there is a bit of a rubbish bit. Do you know what I mean? Like when we right, we have to be positive now, and life's great, and I'm so grateful to the NHS and blah, 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 which we all are. But isn't there a truth of it all about our little personal, little bits of confidence that got chipped away, or a little bits of sometimes anger that that dealt you a bit of a rubbish hand, or those little moments? You can acknowledge those, can't you? I think.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think if you've got people close to you who you really sort of vent out, that really helps. I mean, I think one of the hardest things I still find is, you won't mind me talking about this on the radio, is when you go to the toilet, being able to actually...
Good to talk about toilets.
I look forward to the day where I can literally stand up after going to the toilet, pull my trousers up.
Oh, for yourself. I totally get that.
I have to sit there and I have to go side to side. You have to wiggle because you can't stand up to do it.
Yes.
And if you go into a public toilet... sometimes the toilet seat's not even fixed, and
lovely.
It's wobbling all around all over the place, and you have to take annoying hands on.
I think, Naomi, maybe but bathrooms and toilets are quite a leveller. I think that's my interpretation. It is also an achievement bar, isn't it? At that moment that you were able to go to the bathroom by yourself, you go, yes, I have made it. I am a woman. I can do this. Naomi, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for sharing your private and personal stories. I do have to say, these moments of sort of honest people talking about their lives, they're my favourite thing ever, because I think it's a privilege to listen to people talking about things that they probably don't necessarily always share. I really, really love that. So listen, from today's show, you can catch up with it all over the place on podcast. I'll tweet the link later for the podcast if that's helpful. If you missed the first hour when we were talking about immigration in Sweden and also my experiences personally in Sweden, that report will be online shortly at lbc.co.uk. Also on the website will be my little rant about statisticians. You will know that there was a complaint lodged because I accidentally said a rape victim was 14, not 12, and the Liberals thought that made it a win for them because that little boy was actually 2 years younger than I said. That's the state of liberalism today. I had a miniature rant a major rant about that. That's at lbc.co.uk. But coming up today at 3 o'clock, it's the very lovely Stig Abel. But now in studio is Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Katie, and a moving hour, not just in the bowels, may I say. Coming up, it was claimed today that those who once lived as men, with all the privileges that entails, and then become women, cannot claim the shared experience of growing up female. Can transgendered women ever be real women? Before that, a tenth of all Britain's Islamist terrorists come from just 5 council wards in Birmingham, according to the most comprehensive study of terror convictions in the UK. This report shatters many myths around what causes radicalisation. So why do we keep misunderstanding jihadist terrorism? But first, US President Trump has been urged to provide evidence to back his allegation that Barack Obama ordered his phones to be tapped during the election campaign. Did Obama wiretap Trump's phones?
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 12 o'clock, Hilary Benz told LBC the government should lead by example and immediately protect the rights of EU citizens already living in the UK. He's chair of the Exiting the EU committee, which says the government should make a decision now to safeguard their rights. The former Shadow Foreign Secretaries told LBC it's also about protecting British citizens living elsewhere in the EU.
When we heard evidence from the Brits abroad, they're concerned not only about their right to stay and to work, but their pensions and their healthcare. That's really important. And one of our other recommendations this morning is to say we must ensure that their rights to pensions and healthcare, which is really important to them, particularly for pensioners who have retired to other European countries, that the final agreement has got to sort that out. And of course, everybody says, look, you need to deal with this at the very start of the process.
Elsewhere this afternoon, Paul Nuttall's accused Labour of running an orchestrated smear campaign over claims about the Hillsborough disaster. The UKIP leader apologised in the run-up to his by-election defeat in Stoke over a false claim he lost close friends there. He says suggestions he wasn't at the stadium, though, are untrue.
I've spoken to the people that matter in Liverpool about the situation. And it is quite clear, I was there on the day, and any scurrilous accusations that have been made that I wasn't there and I've lied about being there are quite frankly part of a smear campaign.
Donald Trump's being urged to provide evidence of his Twitter claims. Barack Obama ordered a wiretap of him before last November's US presidential election. Mr. Obama's spokesperson's dismissing the allegation. Jerry Edling's a journalist in LA and has told LBC the lack of evidence has confused members of the president's own party.
Interestingly enough, Senator Lindsey Graham, who represents the Republican Party, said if it's illegal, it would be the biggest scandal since Watergate. If it's legal, it would suggest disturbing evidence of contact with Russian intelligence. So it really caused something of a firestorm.
Well, Majid will be leading Britain's conversation on this next here on LBC. A march and rally is getting underway in central London ahead of International Women's Day on Wednesday. They're gathering outside City Hall to show solidarity with women and girls around the world who suffer inequality and injustice. And Tony Bellew says he broke his right hand during one of the biggest upsets in British boxing history last night. He beat David Haye in the heavyweight boxing clash at London's O2 Arena. His opponent's been released from hospital after suffering a suspected Achilles injury during the fight. LBC weather chilly with heavy rain this afternoon moving eastwards across the UK, turning windy in the north and in the south with a high of 9 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Glenn Moore.
Let's not go home yet, Wilbur. There's a new film out with penguins in. Change of plans. You can control your heating from your phone wherever